Technology's great. Oh, he's in. Okay.
Okay, good.
So we can get started.
Okay, so I'm going to call the call to order our building committee, subcommittee of Region 19, our building committee meeting tonight. It's 6:35. I'm Janice Chamberlain, the chairperson. So I think we'll start with getting an update on the solar projects, and I think maybe you could, maybe we can start with Dennis, if Dennis or Mike. I guess I also want to, at some point, oh, it's supposed to be roof and solar project. I'm sorry. So
it's both. We can start with the solar.
Start with the roof. You want to start with
the roof?
We can, and let's do that.
Share the agenda.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. I can, if you want to share it, Sharon, or do you want me to?
I can get it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think it's, just kind of be able to look at the agenda while we're talking to it.
And then the other thing too, Sharon, I want to be able to share that contingent approval for INT, that the document.
Yep.
Yeah, I have it here, but I don't. I could share too if I needed to.
I have everything sort of up and ready to go.
Okay.
In theory, I thought I was going to be prepared, but we know it never really works out that way. It's because it's an Explorer. We'll do it this way.
Okay, good.
There is a workaround.
Yep.
Got it? Do you see it?
Yeah.
No?
Not yet. Yeah, no, not yet.
Well, we can get started, I guess, in the update, but just
there it is. There it is.
There you go. Yep.
Okay.
For the agenda. So, so let's say, Dennis, why don't you start with the roof?
Yep. So basically, Greenwood's working on the punch list. They didn't work on Veterans Day. We did offer it to them. We did offer after 2:30 p.m. to work. They don't want to do that either. We're trying to keep it moving along. Tomorrow they're going to start working inside in designated areas as requested. I try to limit where they are working within the school so I can control it and clean it. We offered up a Saturday, this Saturday, for them to try to crash and get on that punch list and get it done. So we'll see how much they get done Wednesday. I really need to see an update. We did get a generic update as far as what they've done so far. It isn't a lot, but I'm hoping that offering this Saturday and paying someone to come in to monitor and disinfect the areas that they're in, and limit, obviously with the limited staff in on Saturday, we can accomplish a lot of stuff in the school. Obviously, we only had a couple of leaks and they fixed those. We're moving along. I haven't got any information back as far as the schedule, as far as the screen wall or the railings or the ladder. That there was some issues about fastening the ladders to the building, and they had to go back to Silver Petrocelli to get that information. I understand that was given out to them, and they came and rechecked the mounting as directed from the engineering group. As far as the solar group, tomorrow they'll be working inside, running a connection for the IDF from their inner what do you call it? Mike, maybe help me out. But anyhow, basically down into the internet so they can connect to the Wi-Fi, not Wi-Fi, the IT switch. And then they're also looking at installing the TV monitor so we can monitor our solar output in the lobby next to the main TV. They pretty much pulled all their cables. They feel they're going to be out of there end of November, maybe first part of December if weather holds good. They pull all the wire. They're way ahead of schedule. The weather's been good for them, and I have no problems with their as far as work or workmanship or scheduling or anything. They've been very cooperative and been a pleasure to work with them.
Great. Mike, do you have anything to add to Dennis?
Yeah, just as everything Dennis said is everything that I heard from the contractor today as well. So basically the Ethernet connection is needed so that you can monitor your solar status, just see how it's producing, how much energy it produces, what like the CO2 emissions you've saved, you know, something just simple such as that, like Dennis said, going back to the monitor, which will be probably in the main entryway, and also able, since it's going to be connected to the network, be able to view it on any computer throughout the system, as long as you have the proper connection, which you will, since all the computers will be connected to the internet. As Dennis said, yes, they plan on being done by the end of this month, beginning of next month, and then having the electrical inspector out there probably first week, hopefully, of December, so that he can get a look on it, and then we could proceed with Eversource needing to look at it as well.
Okay. So, Micah, you're going to help us review the contingent approval, the number 4 on our agenda, approval for the INT. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Because I know that there was some punch lists there and things that we had to have in place as a part of that document. So, okay.
So the only, Steve, you're on also here or online. Is there anything you can fill us in that Greenwood may have shared with you and we didn't get nothing back yet from them?
Yeah, I did talk to the assistant project manager this afternoon, Joe Cody, and yeah, he, as Dennis said, he will be working tomorrow. He will be working Saturday. He said he's going to get a large crew in there, and his plans are to be done Saturday with the punch list. In regards to the ladders, they are in fabrication. Joe had told me that there was somebody out there today doing some field measurements, so it's in fabrication. And they are pushing for the end of this month to get the ladders done, as well as the fence. And as Dennis had mentioned, that, yeah, there was a question about the fence support. They did contact, Greenwood did contact us. We gave them a direction this afternoon on how to add extra support to that fence. I'm currently reviewing the operations manual for Dennis to have for his records and his use. Dennis, question for you. They did put down October 2nd as the date of the warranty start. Are you fine with that?
I don't know, is that protocol, even though we're not completed with the punch list?
Correct. That is, the roof has actually been installed, I think, since August. So I think the final, I think the John's Mill rep came out in the end of August and said it was fine. So I'm fine with that. It gives us a few extra months. So I just wanted to verify with you. So I'm reviewing that, and that's pretty much it that I have on my plate.
All right. Does any of the committee members have questions for Steve or Mike or Dennis at this point?
So I just wanted to ask, so we are waiting, this is from last meeting, we're waiting on approving the final Greenwood payment application until everything's done. Is that right? I mean, we reviewed it last meeting, but we're holding it for approval until the punch list and everything is done.
I think that's what we said, but yeah, Steve or?
That's what I've heard also, correct.
Okay.
That was Paul's advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we definitely don't want to pay them and have not finish it. We've already had delay, a lot of delays. We want to keep them on target and get it done.
Right.
Totally agree with that, Dennis.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Now the only thing I've been doing, we have a lot of rusty air handling units up there and exhaust fans, just from age. So I have a sub maintainer that comes in, and I've been primed them and painted them. We're trying to get as much of that done before winter sets in and bad weather. Reason I'm trying to push hard on that is because, as you know, rust will stain the roof, and that's my mission, is to try to get at least a coat primer and at least a coat of paint on those areas. So that's what we're working on, and we have nice days when we can get up there.
All right. So I'm going to move right along. We did receive, and I think this is the only document we received from J.E. Shea Electric, from J. Electric. This is for a contractor's application for payment.
60.
Is that on the screen right now?
Yeah, it's application number 5. Yep, it's on the screen right now.
So we're at item 3, so there are no change orders?
No,
I didn't see any
nothing new.
Yep, okay,
no change orders. There was no change order sent, so,
okay.
okay.
Yep, they've been pretty much on target, what they said they were gonna do. A couple of hiccups at the beginning, with the mount, and then the other one, there was a piece of gear that wasn't added. That's all I believe we had. Is that correct, Mike?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Dennis. Those first 2 change orders were the only ones that we had and the only ones that I can expect to have for the rest of the project.
Yeah.
Okay.
They've been navigating everything, any obstacles, they've come up with solutions, made sure there was, everything was in place. So no problem.
So this is the application for payment that we did actually receive last week. We just didn't have the signed copy.
Right.
So
Got it.
this is the signed version.
Okay.
So this is asking for a disbursement of 68,000 and change, 68,447.50. So with a balance of 223. So are we expecting that we'll get a big one? Because you indicated they may be done still pretty soon. So I'm assuming they'll be coming in with a big one next time, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, it's my assumption, as Dennis said, that next one is going to be a large one, and you'll probably have one other smaller one after that.
Okay.
So we'd probably see one for a larger amount than the retainage at the end, Mike? Is that how it would work?
Yeah, absolutely, because they're going to be finishing up, the majority of the work at the end of this month, so you're going to see the majority of it come in. It won't include the retainer because they're still going to need to contact the electrical inspector and still do work with Eversource and inspecting, so there's still going to be some work in December that needs to be done, but then also, like you said, the retainage should come in December as well, since it should be up and running by the end of December.
Right, so we still have to, when they get close and they give us that final payment, we need to walk that property before we pay that final payment. So we make sure that when they tell you they're almost done, we should probably set a date to get it, to walk the property, the roof area of the solar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we're anticipating that we'll have a payment application at our December meeting, but it won't be the final one. So probably January before we wrap this thing up on the payment side.
That's absolutely what it seems like.
Okay.
Steve, question to you. When do you think, when Greenwood gets pretty much done with their punch list and they give us a updated list of everything they've completed or completed the list, we need to set a date to walk that down also?
Correct. I'm assuming probably the second weekend of December,
Okay.
because of the fence and the letter.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my faith in them, but I've kind of lost faith in them. I'm sorry. Yeah, they say they're going to complete Saturday, but I don't see that possible. But
I know. That's why I was thinking the first week in December, but I think it's going to be more like the second week in December.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Got to keep them on track.
So, does anybody at this point have questions on application number 5? Additional questions? And I'm sorry, I can, because we're sharing Sharon's screen, I don't see everybody's faces, so I can't.
There you go.
I was asking a question, so you're gonna have to speak up. Okay, I can see everybody now.
I keep going back and forth because
Yeah,
I can't see anyone either.
You're doing a beautiful job. I'm just glad I don't have to do it right now. So, can I have a motion then to approve payment for application number 5 for Shea Electric? Don't all jump.
Shea Electric, right. Janice, I can do it, but I need the exact number. I don't have it in front of me. I know it's
68,000.
$445.
$447.50.
And it's application number 5, right?
Yeah.
All right, I move that we pay to J.E. Shea the sum of $68,447.50 for the application number 5 that they submitted to us last week.
Why don't we just put the dates in?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
okay, yes, fine.
so it looks like it was submitted on the
10/26.
it was
10/26.
submitted on the 13th and approved
Oh.
on 10/26.
26. Okay.
Oh, we've already, oh, okay.
Where'd you see that date? The 13th?
The 13th is where the contractor signed it above 10/13. Looks like 10/13.
Oh, that's
It's like
10/23.
23.
Oh, is it 23? Okay, 10/23.
Yeah. Okay,
And down at the
I'll
bottom.
revise it slightly for the date of October 23rd, 2020.
Okay, but down at the bottom
Says 10.
is 26, so,
Yeah, that's the architect's acceptance,
okay.
but the
got it.
contractor submitted it on.
All right, I see it.
I'll second that.
Okay. Thank you, Tim. So, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Uh-oh. Any abstentions? Okay, Jim?
Jim.
Okay, motion passes. All right, great. Okay, moving right along, we have, a number of us have to be done by what, 6:15 or 7:15?
Yeah, we got a little time.
7:14.
Mhm.
So last but not least, number 4 there, a review of the contingent approval for INT-44391, and it's attachment 1, the schedule of milestones, and attachment 2, the interconnection agreement. Yes, I was reviewing it, and it made a lot of sense to me. So hopefully Michael will guide us through the information.
Let me grab it. Hold on.
I was wishing I had listened more to my dad, the professional engineer, who knew all this stuff. Just fix it. But
Do we want the,
I think the full document, well, it depends on how we want to look at it. We may want to start with, I had the full document where I just scrolled through, attachment 1 and attachment 2. And I think there was we're just as a part of 1 through 7, I think, or 1 through 5 pages. I don't know. So,
Yeah, it was 7 pages.
yeah. So can we start with maybe the cover of it? What is that one?
this one? Can you see this on the screen?
Ooh. Not yet.
Not yet.
You are viewing Sharon's screen.
Are you sharing it on a different screen?
I don't think so.
Oh, here we go.
So bizarre. I went right back to the same screen, yet up it comes. It's so strange.
Yeah, so we can start here. So, Mike, do you want to kind of guide us through?
Yeah, that first page that you're seeing there is just a letter to you from Eversource stating that they went through the entire review process, which was looking at the drawings we had to submit, looking at the manufacturer and part number of items such as the PV panels, the inverters, and then they looked at their system and their infrastructure and made sure that nothing would need to be upgraded or how your system would affect their grid. And they came back and found that there would be no extra cost to add or upgrade their infrastructure. And so basically this letter is saying that they reviewed the process and you are able to connect to their grid. There's no extra payment needed, except there is a meter that is needed for the process, except that's a part of the contract document. So the contractor already knows that they have to pay for that.
Okay.
And they've been notified already. So basically they're waiting for this to get signed and then me to reach out to them and be like, by the way, the interconnection agreement has been signed. Please continue working with Eversource to get this process moving along.
So that's that $981 payment, is it, right?
Yes,
Payment
correct.
for the meter. Yep. Okay. Okay.
Yep. That's the only payment that's needed. And like I said, that was covered in the construction documents showing them that a meter needs to be purchased at some point.
Yeah. So you want to move to attachment 1. I think this is a schedule of milestones and.
Yeah, correct. So basically what the schedule of milestones is saying is as a part of the documentation to Eversource, I basically had to insert a date of when I thought the contractor would be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
The project, so all of these dates are based off of that date, which was basically beginning of December. As you can see here, there's a couple due by dates, which is the first couple ones are saying that by November 27th, the schedule of milestones in the interconnection agreement needs to be signed and uploaded to them in order to meet the final approval by December 25th, which we all know it won't be December 25th. It might be hopefully before that they could get it done.
Yeah.
But this is just saying though the final date based off of if it's signed and returned on the 20th by the 27th that it will be in service at December 25th. Now that's not saying if it gets signed and returned prior to that, if the contractor's done with it prior to that, if the electrical inspector comes out earlier than is noted on here, which is item number 4, submit proof of municipal approval. That's the electrical inspector and also the fire marshal needing to approve the system based off of how it was built. Once when they have the letter, the contractor will send that to Eversource proving that they do have approval. And then it says under the comments that there's a minimum of 10 business days that Eversource will need prior to the in-service date after receiving this proof of approval.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, everything that the contractor has said is that they plan on being done early December at the latest, and also early December have the electrical inspector out there to give them approval as well as the fire marshal. So everything that they've said will meet these schedule of milestones. They could potentially be done with it sooner. So basically just depending on when this contract gets signed and returned to Eversource, which this is just a standard contract by Eversource. They give this to every single project that is trying to interconnect to their grid. It's just a necessary thing that needs to be done. If this doesn't get signed, they will never sign off on your project, and your project would just be sitting on the roof collecting energy, but not giving you any energy. So just sitting there doing virtually nothing.
Good. So I guess we definitely want to get that done. Just to scroll down to attachment 2.
Wait, can you just go back for a second? I wanted to ask a question. When you say that the certificate of insurance is completed, has that been accepted by Eversource? I mean, there's a whole section, Article 11 in the interconnection agreement, which specifies a whole. I mean, have they all been satisfied, or have we just given it to them to?
So what you're seeing on here, where you said submit certificate of insurance, that was needed for the interconnection agreement. So that is something that that Mindy got for me, and then I supplied to Eversource while submitting like the plans and everything that we had for the interconnection agreement. So when that says completed, that's already done, and you don't need to submit it again. It's
okay, and they've accepted it as far as you know.
If they hadn't accepted it, they would have came back saying your certificate of insurance needs to be modified. So they did not say that, so it's acceptable to them.
Okay.
So any other? I'm sorry because I can't see everybody. Any other questions on that attachment 1, the schedule?
I just want to say that I do want to ask just a couple of informational questions about the interconnection agreement, but we can wait till we get through this.
Okay.
Just for clarification and understanding what some things mean.
Okay, good. So attachment 2. So this. You want to continue, Mike?
Yeah, so basically attachment 2 is briefly going in and talking about what the electrical system was. So they were saying, you know, it's a 480 volt system, which is the voltage of your school out there. It's a 333.3 kW AC system, which is exactly what the solar size system is, and, you know, where it's, that the address and everything that it takes place on. Basically, they're also saying that the inverters and the panels were looked at by Eversource, because that UL 1741 SA is basically saying that the inverters are able to be connected to the utility grid, which is something they require. So it's basically saying that they read through the products and the materials and saw that everything that was included in this project is compliant and acceptable to them. And basically, these next couple bullet points are going through talking about what the actual system does. So it's very specific to the AC disconnect, and all of that is based off of how the contractor wires it, installs it, and that's one thing that the electrical inspector is going to need to verify when he's out there, because this is something that Eversource is saying, based off of these couple things, before we even come out to verify the system, like, you need to prove to us that this is the case. And then when they come out, they're going to test it again just to make sure that that is the case. So basically also it's saying you need to have signage for it, basically telling you where it needs to be located, that it, the meter, the AC disconnect switch needs to be an accessible location to Eversource at 24/7, so that they don't even need to tell you if anything goes wrong. They can come out to the site and just basically turn off your solar. But that's only going to happen if there is, say, they lose power and they need to turn power off to your system, just so that it's not back feeding into their grid while they're trying to fix their grid. And then basically these other things that you're seeing down here, the C1, the C2,
Yeah.
that's just a lot of electrical information that they're basically saying they need to look at while they're looking at the specific inverters that we're providing. So one of the things they're going to do is verify that the inverter, the panels that I said the system was has in place, they're going to verify all those things are the case. And then they've already gone through all this documentation and said, based off of XYZ inverter and panel, you will meet all these trip settings, the frequency settings, the voltage ride through it. That's just a bunch of electrical jargon that they need to put out there to make sure that they're covered in case you choose like an inverter that's not like compliant to them.
Okay.
But the fact that the inverter is specifically that UL 1741 is virtually saying that it meets all of those tables and all the stats that need to be met.
Okay. And then attachment 3 is what when the contractor kind of gets in touch with the inspector, they're going to certify this, and this gets submitted after the inspector comes out.
Correct. You're not doing anything with that right now. That's prior. That all you guys are signing is the schedule of milestones and the interconnection agreement. What you're looking at now, that's all on the contractor and the electrical inspector to verify when the system is being inspected.
Okay.
And then that would be signed off on, and that would be the documentation that's returned to Eversource by like the electrical inspector, by the contractors saying, yes, you did meet everything that we require you to meet.
Got it. Okay. So now's a good time for questions for folks that have questions.
Dennis, I assume you had some
Tim.
discussion with them about the time. Can you hear me
Say that
okay?
again? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and you coordinated or will coordinate with them about this commissioning date, and obviously there's it's not insignificant event and there's a bunch of power there. So, walking through that and doing it in a safe way, and making sure they're going to go step by step and be prudent and cautious as they bring this system up and bring all that power into the building and the grid.
Yeah, I'll be there. I'm not taking any vacation time really. I want this project done. Mike, one question to you on the EverSource disconnect outside the building. So that tends to have no lock on it, correct? So pretty much it's always available to be used in the open or closed position for fire department, EverSource, and etc.
Correct. Exactly like you said, the fire department and EverSource needs access to that 24/7. So the only way a lock or anything like that could be put on it is if there was a Knox box or something like that placed next to the disconnect, which would have the key that the fire department or EverSource would have access to get into.
It's not something that somebody fools with anyhow. They tend to stay away from it, correct? So,
yeah, the signage and everything that's on that would definitely say stay away. It's going to clearly indicate what it's for based off of code that's required. And it's not anything that will be messed with.
okay. And would it be possible to have somebody, if the fire department decided they wanted some more information or a tour of this, could we rely on our contractors or yourself to help them just understand the system so they know how to react to the building?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about that. The reason why the disconnect is placed where it is and has signage and all that is so that it should be very straightforward for anyone who comes to the building to know that there is a solar system on this building. Be careful. You need to shut off power if there's like a fire on the roof, like you need to come here, disconnect power to the system prior to going up on the roof, based off of safety reasons and everything like that.
That's good. I just, because we have a very good fire department, they rotate their staff quite a bit. They do like to do training, but definitely have them getting familiar with the building and access to the building with the new roof ladder that we installed. It's all good stuff, for them to be responsive to our building needs.
Yeah.
Janice, I'm sorry.
If there's ever any time that they want to speak to me or anything like that, just obviously put them in touch with me and I can clearly go through everything with them.
All right. I think they got a time, so we got to keep moving.
Yeah. Sharon, go
Janice,
ahead.
do you want to go to the next part or do you want to approve separately? I would.
Yeah, I think in terms of improving this separate, absolutely. In terms of this, to move ahead with signatures, standard fast track and stuff.
I think it would make sense to just at least, if anybody has questions on the interconnection agreement, because that's part of what we're signing off on.
Right.
And as I said, I don't know if other people do, but I just have a few things I wanted to ask. One of the things is that any capitalized term that's not defined in the agreement refers to a document called the guidelines, which is intentionally omitted from Appendix A. And so I just for my own, what does EPS mean? The EPS is referred to in paragraph 1.1. Says
So the EPS is specifically EverSource's grid. So basically the connection to the grid. Basically, what you guys need to know for this document is you guys are the generator. Yep. And that's basically everything that you deal with. And you guys have, the contractor doing all of the documents. You have me doing the documents for your side, and you guys are obviously signing off and approving it. Everything else that has to talk about, the EDC and the EPS. The EDC is, EverSource.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah. And I just wanted to know what it stood for, just so that. The other question I have is the agreement specifically says there are no initial interconnection costs, but there's a defined term, interconnection costs, and at least in some provisions it refers to that these could be incurred later. Is there a possibility that could be subsequent interconnection costs incurred?
So basically, there is a couple potential costs for it. The first cost is when you guys have to fill out the paperwork so that EverSource can review the documentation, which was the $500, which has already been paid. Mm-hmm. If your system didn't adhere to the it's called the fast track process that Eversource looks at. If it didn't adhere to that, then there would be an additional fee for them to look at it for some other reasons, which you did meet the fast track process. So it's just that one-time $500 fee. And then any additional cost, they would have had to say in this exact document saying we need to add a transcloser, we need to add transformers to the system, we need to do X, Y, Z to the system. Which they said there's no cost besides for the meter. So there is going to be no other cost.
There should be no other costs. Okay. And then when, I just wanted to ask in section 1.2, right there, where it talks about we can't sell power, we can't sell power without their approval. Is that only related to excess power that they're not buying? So if we generated, there is a provision that if we generate more than they've agreed to buy, we could sell it. Is that what that's relating to only?
Yes, absolutely.
So what they're taking is not covered by this. That's
right.
Covered by, or because it talks about a separate agreement and a separate FERC approval, but that wouldn't relate to anything that Eversource is doing.
Correct. The only other thing with Eversource that you guys are dealing with is the ZREC program. And besides for that, it's basically there's no other contracts for selling energy to some other company, basically is what they're saying.
Okay. And then section 5.4 talks about ongoing costs. Do you know what these are? There going to be any, or do you have any idea what types of things they would be? And these are in addition to the initial, apart from the initial cost estimate.
Yeah. So basically, what this is going to be talking about is for the school, for your system down the line. Basically, Eversource will need to. They want to make sure that the system isn't neglected and all the necessary maintenance is being done on the system. So basically, they're just saying you need to have some sort of agreement or maintenance system in place down the line to make sure that if 5 years down the road, like this string were to fail, you have someone on agreement to go out there and fix it. It's not saying it's a additional occurring payment to Eversource.
Okay, it's just that they could happen and you'd have to deal with them.
Right. They're basically, they want to ensure that your system is taken care of throughout the entire time.
I just want to point out one other thing and then make a comment, and that is in section 19, the notices. The notice to us comes to specifically to Dennis. Typically, I like to see contracts where there's a second copy, maybe would go to the superintendent. So if somebody's on vacation and a notice comes in, they get it. I just wondered if we could add the superintendent as a second notice.
Where is that now? I can't,
That's in section 19.
Section 19. Can we scroll down? Yeah.
I'm sure that's something we can do. I'm a second person on there. So
you are getting it too? Okay.
Correct.
Here.
Everything that's sent to Dennis gets sent to myself as well. And I will, forward it as necessary. There's some times where I've sent it directly to Sharon because I saw she wasn't on the list, just to review or say, please have your attorney look at this and stuff like that. So there are multiple people who are receiving this because we have run into that in the past with Eversource with another town where they only had one person who was on vacation who needed to sign it within a certain amount of time, and it didn't. So they failed the system and had to wait for next year for the ZREC program because there wasn't a second person.
Well, maybe, if it's possible, even with your getting a notice, if we could add with a copy to the superintendent and just even just that would be great, just so we know two people at the school are getting them. Yeah. And then the only other thing, I know we have only a couple minutes. The only other thing I wanted to point out, it's my beating the same drum, is that just noting that the indemnification provision is very broad. The only carve out from our responsibility for indemnification for all damages or costs is with respect to Eversource's obligations under, I think it's section 6.2.2, which is they're operating the facility. I'm assuming that's their only obligations under this agreement. I have not checked to make sure there isn't anything else, but that's the only carve out from our indemnification. I understand we probably can't change it. I'm just pointing it out that it's very broad.
Okay.
Is that address correct for Dennis?
Yeah, can you, yeah, scroll down to the,
That's not the school. That's not the school address. I didn't know what that was meant to be.
4 South Eagleville Road.
it's not the school address?
No, that'd be the town hall billing. That's where the billing goes.
Right. Oh, that's, so is that where it should go? You
Yeah,
get your mail there?
They would send it over in her office. It would just take longer if it went there.
Well, we should probably have it go.
yeah, can we change that then?
They shouldn't have a problem with that. That's just
Yeah.
where we want it to go.
Is that the, Sharon, where would we send it for you?
1258, right?
I'm sorry?
If we wanted to add the superintendent, where would that address be? The same one?
1235, I believe, stores.
Stores Road. Yep.
Stores
1235 Stores Road.
That's where both of these ought to really go, shouldn't they? I mean, if it's going to go to
Yeah.
Dennis.
4 South Eagleville Road is the town hall.
Yeah, why are we
Yeah.
putting it there?
That's
Should
something
not
that
go there.
we can probably follow up with.
I
And
think
just
we
make sure that they're sending it to multiple
Yeah.
folks.
I think we
Sharon,
can
it
approve
should
it.
go to you and a copy to
Dennis.
Dennis, yeah. But as the, basically the CEO, you should be getting a copy of this. Anything that comes in, you should be getting. And Dennis should be the copied person on this, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And it should not go to 4 South Eagleville because that's the town hall.
Should go to us at this school. Yep, I agree. Superintendent's office, whatever that address is. So who is who actually physically signs this? Is it at the bottom of the
Probably
document?
Sharon, right?
Yeah, I usually do.
So we would want to make a motion to
Authorize, yeah.
authorize Sharon to go ahead and sign the
Both of these, yeah.
agreement with
On
the
behalf-
with the additional with the change in address and the addition of or with the
The
superintendent.
corrections, yeah, to the
Yeah.
notice
Yeah,
provision.
correct. Yeah. So does somebody want to make that a motion?
I'll make that motion that we
Yes.
approve, what are they? We approve the, what is the name of this doc?
Interconnection agreement.
What's the
INT.
first one? The
Oh, attachment
contingent,
one.
the contingent approval, which includes the, and the attached, interconnection agreement, and authorize Sharon Cronoyer as, superintendent to sign these on behalf of the generator, which is the term that's us.
Okay.
And put in the.
With the corrections to the notice provision,
Thank you.
providing for notice to the superintendent, a copy to Dennis, and addressed to the school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. A second?
Second.
Yep.
Okay, Tim. Discussion. Okay. All in favor? I can't see everybody.
Aye.
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 Any
I'm sorry.
opposed?
Who seconded that?
Um,
Tim.
Tim did.
Tim.
Tim did.
Thank you.
Okay, no opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Awesome.
Do we have any other business, Sharon?
We do not.
Okay, so I will move to adjourn.
I'll move.
Second?
Second. Second.
Discussion?
Hey, we're done.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
We're just going to stay on for the next
Yeah.
call.
Yeah, we got a few people in the waiting room. I'm gonna let them in.
I'm gonna go grab a little snack. Can I go grab a food?
It's going to be a small snack.
A small snack.
Do we want to wait a second and I'll take live stream out for a minute, take live stream offline, or are we ready to get started and Janice can jump in?
I don't know that we really need to take it off. I think we're ready to get started.
That for Janice.
Yeah, except for Janice to come back. I would like to suggest that we switch the order of the first two items on the agenda and just get the letter out of the way first and then go to the school safety survey.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Do we have the live stream back yet?
I didn't take them out.
Okay. Okay. So we're ready. Let's see. Who are we missing? We have
It's
everybody.
Janice.
Oh, Janice
I'm
isn't
here.
back yet.
Oh, and Deborah.
She is here. Okay.
I'm just.
Do we have everybody?
Can we put these up on the screen, Tony?
Well, yeah. Let me just first call this is the meeting of the Equity, Diversity, and Justice Subcommittee of the Board of Education of Region 19, and it is November 17th, and it's 7:15 meeting. Call to order. Yeah. So if we could go to the letter prior to the school safety survey, and Sharon, do you have the latest drafts of those that you could put up?
I have them in emails and I have them printed. So
I
let
think,
me just
yeah, they
grab
should
the
all be
email.
all of them should be on one email that I sent yesterday for the letters.
Okay, I'm going to have to go in and get that if we can't.
And actually, I think we could just put up the one that has Jim's comments, because those are just marked on Tim's copies, and there's only a few of them. So we probably don't have to have three separate. Tim, unless you think otherwise, I think we could do it that way.
So the one that came today from Jim, red line?
No, that's the survey.
Okay.
This is the letter that would go out with the statement of guiding principles, and there were three versions of it. They were all attached to my email to the committee yesterday.
Okay, so here, I'm not sharing my screen yet. I have all of them in front of me. So we have the statement, we have the open, okay, with Jim's comments, gotcha.
I think if we do the one with Jim's comments and then do Sarah's, because Jim's were just a few additions or a few changes from Tim's original version.
Okay, cross
Uh,
your fingers. Can we see it?
Let's
Yeah.
see. This is the
See
one. This is
something?
the one with Jim's. Yep. This is the one with. Is it possible to show this one and Sarah's on the screen?
I
don't
can't,
know.
yeah, I don't think I can get two up there unless someone has a trick they can.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I think we can at least maybe what we can do then is just quickly look at this, then shift it to Sarah's, and then decide where we want to how we want to proceed. And I think Jim's changes to what Tim put together were to delete it for your consideration and input. And I think his point was right. We've already approved the statement of guiding principles at the board level, so really we're not looking for input. That is what it is, and we're moving from that point forward.
So I do have, Tony, I have Sarah's, I have a printed copy of Sarah's edited suggestions. So I can try and interject as we get to those paragraphs if you think that's going to be helpful.
I think maybe we just look through this. Sarah's is such a rewrite that it almost, we almost have to look at it separately and then decide if there's things. I don't know if people have hard copies of these as well. If there are things that we want to, well, first of all, which direction we want to go, and secondly, if there are pieces that Sarah left out that people want to put back in, for instance. But if you could scroll down a little bit, Sharon, so we can see Jim's next point. And I think his there about holding us accountable. We've already identified accountability up in the items above there, and I think that is sufficient for these purposes.
So
did
we address the first one? Did I miss that?
I think yes. I think the idea was to take that out because the guiding principles have now been approved by the board, so we're not looking for into them.
Got it. So this one's accepted.
Yeah.
And then I think Jim's point on the second one was that we have already identified accountability as one of the targeted framework items right above in those 4 bulleted items. So we don't really need to say it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think on the third one, Jim, I sort of like keeping the word community in, but it just seems more, but I don't have any strong feelings about it. I don't know what other people feel.
Well, I think it identifies our school community, and I really read that more as the students, teachers, additional, staff coming to and from the school,
Right.
family members. I really wasn't looking at as the community at large, even though maybe other people saw it that way.
I mean, we're talking about it being the school community, so it's not.
But Tony, just to clarify, that's just where, when I put the comment, that's where it highlighted. What I was saying was what you had deleted, I agreed with, and what you inserted, I agreed with.
Oh, okay.
So the word community is not an issue.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
That's what
then, so this is in effect. Now we have Tim's draft with Jim's comments. I don't think that those are controversial. So the real question then becomes whether we work with this version or with Sarah's. And clearly Sarah's is a lot shorter.
That's true.
Can you see that?
Not yet. Oh, no, not yet.
Still no?
No.
Man.
Technology
It
is
might be
frustrating.
the letter of guiding principles, or it might be that one.
It was, I think, the one called edits to the.
Edits to EDJ, open letter for guiding principles, parentheses, SAS.
Yeah, I have it. It's not, you're not seeing it. I have it on my screen.
Are you showing a screen or the app?
I'm showing I'm opening it from my email, which is what I did for the last meeting. And so it's on my screen.
Are you sharing the screen or the app, just the application?
I'm sharing hold on. Shows that
the opportunity. If you share the screen, it'll show whatever's displayed. Or share the application, it'll only share Outlook or only share Word or whatever it is that you're sharing.
It was a Word. It was a document.
Let me do this.
Yay.
Do you have it?
No.
It was there. It looked like it was there for a second.
Yeah. I think it was the other one.
It really must be short.
That's the wrong one. I'm gonna try it one more time.
It's not doing it.
Are you seeing my email?
I'm seeing your email.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you sharing your screen or just Outlook when you Zoom share?
I don't know the difference, quite honestly. I think I'm sharing my screen, the screen of my Outlook.
Well, it'll ask you whether you want to share your screen or the specific document, right? Typically. So if you share the screen, it shows whatever shows on the screen. If you share the document, it will only show the document. And if you change applications, it won't share the other application.
Yeah, so when I do share screen, it opens up to all the windows that I have open on my laptop. And so I click on
the one that says screen, not the one that says Outlook. Right? Or whatever screen. If you have multiple
There we
screens,
go.
you pick
There
whatever
we
screen.
go.
There we go.
That's it.
Yeah.
Christmas miracle, Tim. Thank you.
I live on Zoom.
Christmas miracle.
I guess.
Well, read it first, or
I guess we should read it, and then I would like to ask Tim first if he feels strongly that anything that he felt strongly about has been left out, and we should put back in if we were to go with this one. So let's.
to be honest, it took me a lot longer than a couple minutes or a minute to write. So as far as the sequence and pace and the connectedness of it, so I guess it's hard to digest the flow of this one in that context. But certainly, others should weigh in.
Well,
go ahead, Jim.
Hard to compare the differences. I guess.
They are.
In short time.
It's pretty much.
Yeah. So, and when I read both of these this morning, and quite frankly, and maybe our students have a feeling too, but when I read these, I said, okay, so I could go with either copy, because I feel like it is saying the same thing. However, I did notice that you left out one of the bullets, Sarah, and I don't know.
That was intentional.
Right. So I didn't know if Tim wanted to speak to that in terms of metrics that we were going to use for tracking progress.
Yeah, but we have accountability measures.
Right.
I just, I'd like to hear Tim, but the reason for the brevity, I'd like, there's so many great ideas that Tim said, and it's much easier to edit something that's really, thorough. But I think we have to figure out who's going to read this, and we have our principles. I would like for people to pay attention to the principles. And this is an invitation to look at the principles. So that's where I was going.
My 2 cents is the message is the same, the tone is different.
Right.
The tone and the as someone who sometimes has to sit on an email before I send it, I always try to put myself in the seat of the person receiving it. And since this is being received by a variety of different folks with different levels of awareness, and different probably opinions about our sincerity, I think that tone is important. And so we just need to make sure that that we're sending the message with the right tone.
Yeah.
So Sharon, which one do you think has the right tone?
I knew you were going to do that.
Thanks, James.
So
you
much
can't
for
put it out there and then
Jim.
walk away.
I just wanted to open up the idea of tone. I do get a feeling of, there's a tone that to me is generates more emotionality, and I think Tim's for me kind of it has a tone that invites us in, as opposed to seeming a little sterile.
Which one?
Yeah, which one?
Tim's has more, to me, has more emotion that invites people into the conversation.
Yeah, right. And to me, I agree with you totally on the emotionality. And for me, and of course, I'm not representing everyone. When I see an overly, and we're committed and we're gonna whatever, I'm suspect of that. And I mean, not with Tim. Tim is absolutely 100% sincere, and what you're saying is sincere. It's just a difference in perception.
Could you put up Tim's again, just quickly? Oh no, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
You had your chance, Janice.
Yeah, forget it.
Let me. I had a few thoughts about kind of potential. I sort of agree with you, Sharon, and I toyed with the idea of adding back a couple of things from Tim's letter to Sarah's, because I do like the fact that it's relatively short, and maybe if we add things back, it gets a little longer. But I liked. Well, first of all, I want to just the paragraph that comes right after the 3 bullet points. So it says, we will remain focused, keep an open mind, and maintain engagement with you as we progress through our goals. That sounds really sort of like corporate to me.
Which
Sentence,
where are we now?
the sentence right there,
Yeah.
that we will remain focused, keep an open mind as we progress through our goals. I would like, that was one area where I thought I would like to kind of maybe modify that a little bit. And then I also liked, and this could perhaps be added if we went with this version, at the beginning of the next paragraph, where Tim had said in his letter, we also know that we know that we have much to learn about each other as a community. We are not one mind or one voice. And then, then we could go, however, we're confident that we can come together to promote. I like that kind of recognition that it's not a monolithic, we have lots of different views. And I liked having that idea brought into, if we were to go with this letter, I would like to include that concept and perhaps work a little bit with the prior paragraph to kind of make it a little less corporate type speak sounding.
Well, Tony, my son used to call my husband and me Mr. and Mrs. Spock. So maybe we can use your help and Sharon's and Tim's.
So
I think as we think about this, I'll say the mindset I was trying to get in was simply that there's a huge diversity of positions and opinions and outlooks on the topic that we're talking about. Some are going to think we will come up way short in our commitment and fervor to it. Others will be, oh my God, this is way over the top and overreaching. Others will be, meh, they may or may not care, to be honest, as much as, we might find that objectionable. But so I guess that was in my head, right? As far as the whole variety of folks, not trying to please everybody, but just acknowledging that and a balance between, a sense of urgency of the whole process, not just an urgency of the guidelines, guiding principles. For at the same time, a level of maturity that, this is when, we just didn't think of this, right? Our country's been, our society has been dealing with this for a long time, right? So we need a level of maturity in terms of our outlook. And so, urgency, but some maturity in our going about this and not being naive about what we're going into. So anyway, just for what it's worth, that was kind of my sense about it.
No. Well,
I feel like
go ahead, Sharon.
Just one, I feel as though one is very informational about what the board will be doing and why, and one is an invitation.
Yeah.
Right.
I like the invitation, and what I was going to also do was go back to Tim's and really just suggest a couple of edits there that I would see as as the alternative. And really, there was only two things I wanted to do with his. There was a sentence when he said, "This statement of principles is not intended to be what we expect to do. It is merely I would just leave out the word merely. It is an expression of the spirit of how."
Yeah, fair enough.
So that's in the, let's see.
Third paragraph.
It's right here. To be clear, this statement of principles is not intended to be what we expect to do. It is I would just leave out the word merely there.
Yeah.
And
it is an expression. Mm-hmm.
And then, we can go either way. I mean, whether the equity scorecard and metrics is picked up in accountability or not, I don't have a strong feeling either way. But then the other change I would make is the next, where it starts with this letter is also an invitation right after the 4 bullet points. I would just say it's an invitation to engage. I don't think we need to say, or in stronger terms, a call to engage, and then pick it up from there. With those,
that further simplifies. Those are good.
And then, and maybe it's to engage, and then with that, and those are just pretty minor. But I also like the tone of this better, and I like that it's not like this is going to be us figuring this out. It's going to be all of us figuring this out. And I understand, Sarah, your point about whether, but we have to mean that. We have to do that, or this isn't going to work.
Well, no, I agree with that, but I guess it's the way I think. Like, I can't find it right now. I can't read it, but that part about, can you go back to that part? This is not what we mean to do or something. Oh, here it is. To be clear, the statement of principles is not intended to be what we expect to do. See, I know I am very kind of, process oriented, but that confuses me.
But I underlined what, because you right now, the way you read that, you got to read it where the highlight is, right? That's why I underlined it. It's not the focus is not on the expect. The focus is on the what, right? It's not about expecting or not. It's about the what versus the how.
Yeah, but to me that it's nice to have differences of perspective, because that's hard for me to wrap around. It's like when I'm reading something, and I am not corporate, Tony. I'm sort of like a lab scientist, and I've done that. I help my husband in his lab and all kinds of other labs. But it's like I kind of want to know, what are you people going to do?
I don't think we know.
No, that's not what this is about, though. That's exactly my point.
And what do you want?
Because people will take it away as this is what we're going to do. Like, whoa, no. I want to be super clear. That I wanted to be. It obviously didn't come across maybe as clear as that, but that was my goal, was to just make sure people weren't misled by all of a sudden. This is we're done. This is our document. Yeah. And go ahead, Sarah. Sorry.
I wonder if you take of the Spirit, which softens the sentence.
I like that part.
If we say it is an expression of how we intend to go about doing it, rather than taking the spirit of it out, because then it's active.
Yeah. It doesn't change the meaning, but that's the same. Yeah,
that would be
simpler, more direct.
So after I do want them to work with us. Okay, that's not my intention.
So my thought, I was reflecting on, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Tim, and everyone else who has done wordsmithing around these. I am not a writer, I'm just, just like, give me the policy. Here's the policy. I'll write the policy for you, but I don't feel like I'm the best writer. And so, that being said, and having read these and now with the discussion input, I feel like when I'm reading, I guess something that Sharon said, this letter to me, Tim's letter, and I'm not sure we need to make even those additional edits, but we can, is that this is more, to me, is more like, okay, this is intentional. We're here, we're ready to work. And we're inviting you in, we have an invitation to the rest of our community. We're inviting you in, join us, help us. But we're going to start to work and we're intentional about this product. Here's our guiding principles. And now we're going to move ahead and start kind of identifying what those goals are and how we feel like we're going to achieve those goals. And I'm a little uncomfortable with the equity scorecard with metrics, and maybe that's identified in the identified accountability. However, I think that one of the things that in human services, one of the things that we have a hard time with is how do you measure things and how do you kind of do those measurements to show that your work is, that you are doing work and it's making some progress. And so for me to be challenged and have that incorporated is a good thing. So those are my 2 cents. And I would go with this letter at this point with the additional edits of what James had suggested. Jim. Yeah.
I think that, and I think somebody already raised this at one point. I think I would prefer to go with this letter. I think it is more of an open invitation, but I think then we have to be very, very engaged in providing mechanisms for people to engage with us.
Sure.
And maybe that means we have an open sort of place where people can provide comments to us. You know, we'll live stream our meetings, have an opportunity for people to, and maybe we have to, from time to time, have specifically identify at certain stages, we're going to actually not just have a meeting, we're going to characterize this as a community discussion and hope that people will join us online as we did with the forum. I don't know. I'm just thinking about those things, but I think if we're going to go out with this, we have to follow up with it, and we have to be creative on how we
Yeah,
do
but
that.
Tony, those are things for another day. Those
Oh,
are
no,
not
no, I
things
understand
that-
it for another day. I'm
I
just
think
saying.
right now, with losing the focus on this letter, which is meant just to be an introduction to the guiding principles, we don't need perfection on the letter. We just need an introduction. And I think that with the edits that have been made, I think I don't have a problem with either one, to tell you the truth, because
Deborah, you had a
purpose
comment?
again is just to introduce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. Either letter would probably do the trick. I think that I personally am grateful for people who wrote it up and did the work on this. But I think that I want to move the question here.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get to the real work here. And I think that either one of these letters are going to be harmful. And I think that the one that we're looking at right now with the edits is sufficient, if not good enough, so that we can move on to the work of this committee.
Yeah.
I'm afraid we're going to end our evening here not having a letter. And so I'd like to see us move on.
Yeah, you and I are in the same point.
Yeah.
All right, I guess, so the question would be, is if, are we ready for someone to make a motion for one or the other letter?
Yeah.
Sure.
I move that we accept the letter as edited that's sitting on the screen right now.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is that Janice?
Yep.
Okay, and any discussion? Again, I think as we did Jim, at a prior meeting, if people don't like this letter, they can either abstain or not vote if they want to bring up the other one as the alternative. But
well, yeah, if you don't vote, if there's not enough of a vote to carry the letter, then there'd have to be a new motion.
Right. So I think if you want the other letter, you shouldn't vote on this one. So, all right. So all in favor of this motion with this letter?
Aye.
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 Any
Tim's hand.
Anyone against? Any abstentions? Okay, we're going with this letter.
Thank you, Sarah, again.
Yes, thanks, Sarah. I think
actually it's all of Tim's work. I mean, when you edit, you're not really the authoress, you know. So thank you, Tim.
Thank you for suggesting your second letter as well and putting the work into that as well.
Well, I think it's great to have different opinions and for us to be able to discuss that.
Well, I think we're going to move on to one where we maybe have some more opinions.
Yeah, you do.
Let's see. So moving on to the survey. Now, Sharon, do you have the draft survey that you can put up?
Where's my survey?
I'm muted. Cross your fingers.
I got my fingers crossed.
There we go.
Okay.
Yes.
I know that to this point, Jim and I both have comments on this. I don't know if other people have come up with additional comments that they haven't shared, but I would propose that we just simply go through this, and that, Jim, if you feel that we discuss your comments and my comments as we look at the different paragraphs, because in most cases, I mean, we can work with what the text that's on the screen as the starting point.
Okay.
All right, let's see. So I don't know if other people have seen the emails back and forth between Jim and me about his response, and then to my comments, and then my response to his response. But
I haven't seen yours, Tony.
you have not.
No.
I sent that. Well, we can just go through them.
Yeah, and I saw them, but didn't have a chance to really pay attention.
They came in just before the building committee started, so it's probably easier just to start with this. Now, let me see. I'm just going to reach over here. And I would ask if anybody has comments that, in addition to what we're talking about here, they just jump in when we get to that provision, and we'll take them. But let's start from the background. Mm-hmm. And I had suggested that at the third sentence of the first paragraph, which is this paragraph that starts, this individual, right here, in the fourth line, third line, this individual is located in the school. Yeah, if you can highlight the whole sentence, Sharon, that would probably be a great idea. Okay. I had suggested, we kind of described this SRO multiple times through this document, and I actually think that's helpful because I think the questions should pretty much stand on their own without having to refer back to earlier questions or the background to get there. So, but I had suggested that we add to this paragraph, let's see, the individual is located in the school, let's see.
Carries a firearm, has
arresting powers, and I had put, and is required by statute to undergo state mandated training for this role. And
well, you would also include it, and as is the case with community police officers, and is required by statute to undergo state mandated training.
Yeah, and that's right. And I don't know that that's really necessary. I think that was in one of the versions. Maybe I picked that back up, but
you have that thing that you sent out at about 2:00 this afternoon. I have it here.
Yeah, that was what I sent out, but then Jim had some changes to that.
Yeah, I got both of your edits. Okay. Do we have those somewhere? I mean, that's a little easier than
we could put them up. Well, I mean, the other thing we could do is put them up on the screen, but they don't have, like in this case, they don't have the whole paragraph. They just have this sentence.
All right, we'll do the best we can then.
In some cases, it may be easier just to look at those because they rewrite the whole paragraph. Yeah. So
I'm sorry. Is that what you want? Do you want that other? Do you want?
Yeah.
Why
don't we take a look? If we can switch back and forth from these as we go to the comment, is that going to be possible?
Now you're getting crazy.
Geez, what we demand.
Actually, the best one to put up would be if you have Jim's with his edits to my comments.
That was hard for me to read a little bit, but you kind of need both of them, Tony, to like.
Well, his is highlighted to show the changes.
Okay.
So
right.
You can.
Can you see this on your screen? Is this correct? No. So I have to follow Tim's directions back.
Oh. Heard that, Janice.
Oh, sorry.
Is this what you're looking for?
Yes, this will be great.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, and I don't know if some people may have a copy of the full survey that's available to them on the side. If not,
yeah, I do have that somewhere.
So I had put the language which is in black, and Jim had made a couple of changes. So what this added is that, okay, as is the case with community police officers, I had and is required by statute to undergo state mandated, and Jim had added and other specialized training for this role. And my question, Jim, that I'd ask back to you is the way this is worded, and I don't know whether you intended it as the other specialized training that's not state mandated. We're asking for that, right?
Right. That's what I meant, Tony, was that we anticipate or expected that we would have the SROs, if we can keep the program, we would send them to additional training above and beyond what the state requires.
Okay. And that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that that's not, so there's mandated by the state and then our own requirements.
Yeah, and that could be specified, but that's what I was getting at, was that we have our own things that we want them to do as well, and training that we want them to undergo in addition to whatever the state requires.
Right, and we'll get to that when we talk about security guards, because I think that we may also want to require that security guards have some training that we require that's not state mandated. That's why.
No, but the only question I would have on that is, can we? Maybe I suppose we can, but what would we send them to?
I mean, Sharon, I thought you were indicating that we were still expecting that our SROs who were performing as security guards now would still attend some training, right?
The training that I think we discussed, and our security folks went through it too. All of our staff went through the implicit bias training, and did that work. And we would expect that anyone who's serving in this kind of a role, who's interacting with students, to have de-escalation and implicit bias training.
Yeah, I just didn't want to create, Jim, the view that if you're an SRO, you have mandated training and other special aid training, but if you're security guard, the implication is you have none, which I don't think is true.
We could put in there, Tony, in addition to implicit bias training. That would be fair, and that would be something to put in for both.
And the other specialized training we're requiring that's not state mandated, what besides implicit bias training, what other things are we requiring?
We were going to send them to the SRO program, which is not state mandated. But if they're members of the SRO organization, they go down or they zoom in and they have to go to SRO training as well, in addition to the state mandated stuff.
Okay. Anyway, I think that I'm happy with you. I'm happy with your change, but I would like to then supplement something on the security guard side to suggest that if we hire security guards, it doesn't mean there is no training. We could, as a job requirement, specify certain levels of training, and whether
Yeah. So but they wouldn't have access to the SRO organization.
No, they wouldn't have access to the SRO, but I'm assuming they would not. I imagine you have to be an SRO. Okay. I have the third paragraph change. I'm just trying to see what exactly we changed.
Just style, not a form.
Yeah, it was just style, and I had no problems with your changes. I just thought that the wording sort of in the other one was a little awkward, but I think that your changes even make it clearer. So I had no problem with those. I don't know if anybody else.
That was the only reason I did it.
I don't think it changes the meaning. I think these are just improvements to the text.
Style. It's just style.
The next one, which relates to the third and fourth statement. And let me tell you without going back, maybe we can, because they're pretty straightforward. The third question the third statement in the survey was this: I am concerned about an internal threat, from inside the school, that would require an SRO to protect my child's safety. I had proposed changing that to uniformed armed law enforcement officers. Jim had felt that we should use the term SRO, that it had been defined previously, although this is the first time in the actual survey statements it's used. And my suggestion would be, yes, go ahead, use the SRO, but pick up the language that we have in, I guess that's question 3, in question 5, which again says what an SRO is. With the caveat that I would still like, and I think it actually cuts both ways, that the question 5 now reads: a school resource officer, SRO, is an individual located in the school on a full-time basis carries a firearm and has arresting powers, and then we were going to add that additional language about special mandated training and specialized training.
Just to rearrange your wording there so that.
I still felt that it made sense to make sure that it's clear that they're a certified police officer as well. Partly because I don't want to send, I mean, I think people ought to know that they're a uniformed police, but also we don't want to suggest that they're not and that they're carrying a gun in the school. So I thought that using the language which we basically agreed, let's see, in the
But Tony, while you look for that, right in your preamble, doesn't it say an SRO program places a certified police officer in the school full time? So haven't we already said it?
Yeah.
But I think that we need to say it again. I don't necessarily want to rely on the fact that people are going to remember either read the full preamble before they go to the questions or start or remember what it said. And we actually go on and elaborate what an SRO is in most of the other questions where we cite them. And since this is the first time, I think we ought to do it here. That's why I think we should pick up whatever we agree to in question 5 and say it in these 2 questions as well. So in statement 5, we say a school resource officer is a certified uniformed police officer in the school on a full-time basis, required to undergo with statutorily mandated and other specialized training on an ongoing basis, carries a firearm, has arresting powers. And I guess one thing we could do is put that in question 3, which is the first time we use in the actual survey questions the term SRO, and then decide whether we need, and then define it as, and decide whether we need to say it again in any of the other questions after that. Although I would argue that it might make sense. Again, I don't want people having to refer back to what's the definition. Rather be able to have them answer each question by just looking at it, even if it's redundant.
Are you implying that people who read this are not very intelligent?
No. I'm just saying that I would rather have them be able to get the response for each question without having to flip back and remind themselves what an SRO is. Just be able to read it there and then answer the. And maybe I'm being overly, and I don't have. I mean, I think if we agree to put it in question 3 and then define it as SRO, we don't have to do it again. But I at least would like us to consider whether because we use it in the survey, the draft that we have, that term gets defined almost every time we say SRO. So I was kind of working with what was already there.
Well,
and Lou, I don't know whether that was a comment we got or just what we did when we were drafting it.
You could always say, as put in parentheses, an SRO is previously defined above, so that people would know to look back.
Yeah.
But what you put in number 5, the way, just the way I had reordered it, I didn't have any problem with that.
All right. I mean, I would then just say, why don't we go back and take that definition of SRO, put it into the 3rd statement, which is the first time in the text of the questions we asked. So it would say, looking at the actual, okay, so those questions are, I'm concerned about an internal threat that would require, and rather than saying an SRO, require.
Yeah, you can put the definition in there. Yeah.
Put the definition there, and then define it as an SRO, and then say, as we go throughout the rest of the survey, just say as previously defined. So it's defined the first time it appears in a statement that we're asking.
Oh, I agree with you that there should be a definition. I just don't think you need to, every single question that involves SRO, you have to have it defined again.
Okay, well then let's.
So maybe a thought would be that in that introduction, I mean, maybe, beating a dead horse maybe, but maybe you're saying a school resource officer, parentheses, SRO, and be very deliberate, is defined as, and put all the stuff in there and gets this, and the training they receive is blah, 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 blah. So that, because I don't know if,
so you're saying put it all in the background section.
Yeah, right? Because I'm reading this going, okay, I'm going to be reading this survey going, okay, I have to read this again for the 5th time, the 6th time. I mean, I just don't know that it's necessary. And I would like to think that people will see that defined in that first paragraph and then be able to say, okay, this relates to this. I mean, because you're repeating the name of the.
Yeah, no, well, part of that was because the survey as drafted had done that with a lot of the questions. I have no problem if we put it in the background section. Then we can just refer when we first refer to it that it's as defined in the background.
Yeah, as previously defined.
And we can even say in the background, so people who go right to the questions and didn't read the background would still go back.
It's a relatively short survey, and again, maybe my penchant for brevity, and we already told you this.
Yeah.
By repeating it, you are deliberately skewing this.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No, I was pretty much trying to work with the fact that there was.
It would be skewing it, not necessarily intentional on your part.
Nope, that's fine. I think then if we, as I said, I'd like to ask Lou, because I know this was looked at by, was that a suggestion that we keep defining it every time, Lou, or was that just something we had done when we did the questions?
Yes, it was. The wording was, all of the wording was looked over. I think they wanted to be clear what it was. As I read the background, I do see a sufficient definition of what an SRO is.
Lou, when you say they, who are you talking about?
I shared it with a handful of NEAG policy professors.
Well, that was a mistake.
Yeah. Well.
How about some of our student reps? I don't know. It might be nice to get their feedback too.
Yeah. Mo, do you think we need to do this every single time? Define it every place? Is he muted?
I don't really think so. Like if we're worried about like it's skewing one place or another, like defining it at the top, I think it'll be fine, and just like having that like standard throughout. The one thing I'm mindful of is just like, I think it's important that people don't really see this as like sort of black and white, which I think we've made like progress like away from, where it's just like where people don't see it like, oh, if I'm concerned about school safety, then I'm like automatically on the school SRO side, or if I don't support SROs, then I don't care, or I'm not worried about school safety, etc. And like someone else brought up, I think like defining it every time with this like drawn out definition will sort of like push people into this black and white world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lindsay? I'm just curious. Yeah.
I can really see both sides, the wanting to remind people, because I can understand like if you're busy and trying to go through it quickly, you might not retain everything. But I think I would agree with Amog in that it might be a little more important to not repeat it every time to keep things from being skewed.
Thanks.
Well, then let's define it up in the background. We can put, let's see. I'm just trying to see where we the way it's worded now, it's in 2 sentences. So where you say that it's maybe it just has to be reworded slightly in the first. Because right now in the background section, it says an SRO places a certified police officer in the school full time. This individual is located in the school, carries a firearm, has arresting, and then has the training. So it's over two sentences.
Tony, what you could do right there is for purposes of this you could put in for purposes of this survey, an SRO will be defined as follows.
Right.
And you write out your paragraph.
Yeah. So we would just put in, and then so the second sentence would start with for purposes of this survey. Or give maybe the third sentence. And we would just add in the pieces. I think we can do that and just turn it into, and then define it as SRO. And we just pick up the language that we just talked about in statement 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we just say, for purposes of this agreement, a school resource officer is a certified uniformed police officer located in the school, everything that's in paragraph 5. Define it as an SRO, and then elsewhere in the agreement, we just, I don't know if we need to refer to it every time or just the first time as previously defined. I think probably not. I just hope that everybody reads the background before answering the questions. Maybe in the first,
some won't.
maybe in statement 3, we just say as previously defined in the background and then leave it at that.
Yeah, that's good.
And then elsewhere, just refer to it as the SRO. All right. So I think that we would then, I think we then have the background section, right? The third paragraph of the background. The third and fourth statements would then just refer to, but be the way they were, just refer to the SRO. The fifth statement would just refer to the SRO at this point because it's already been defined. The sixth statement.
After hearing this, Tony, I have a thought that would maybe hopefully help on the school security guard. Not required to undergo any statutory mandated training, but will be required to undergo specialized training as required by the Region 19 board. So if you add that in there, then it does indicate that we will expect our security guards to undergo some training.
Yeah, but will be required to undergo
additional
or
specialized
or specialized training as required by the board, right?
Yeah.
You see my screen? No.
You can see your email. You can see your screen that you can just see the email.
So we would, so that the sixth statement, the one about security guard would say that, and then would have the I support E.O. Smith having unarmed security guards as defined in this paragraph. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the seventh statement, E.O. Smith, let's see, go to the, should rely upon that's fine, with a local law enforcement for school security rather than bringing into the school's own security officer. I really just didn't want to say hiring because we don't hire them. So.
No, and I didn't want to say maintain because we already do that to the best we can. So, but really what happens is if we are not going to have SROs or security guards, then we really are relying upon our close relationship. And then you go on to indicate that, that may or may not result in a quick response.
Yeah, so I had added that second sentence, which just acknowledges that if you're relying on the liaison with local law enforcement, you may not get as quick a response.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
In a violent attack, in those situations. Okay, so then.
Quick question on this one. So I hate to ask this question again. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, great. So when we're looking at where it says with local law enforcement for school security rather than, do we just want to say rather than a school resource officer?
Yeah, that would be okay.
Rather than SRO?
Just rather than, and just take out bringing into the school its own, just rather than an SRO.
School resource officer.
Yeah, school resource
by its nature, that's what we would have to do.
Yeah, that would be fine.
Yeah, that's
and fine. I wonder, and I don't know, Lou, in your conversation with the NEAG folks, does it skew the question by bringing in the scenario?
Of maintaining a close relationship? That part?
No, the second sentence is
right here where it says your response should take into account the fact that removing an SRO from the school could result in the delay of armed police response to a violent attack.
I don't think that was in the survey.
No, it wasn't. That was added.
That was added.
Yeah, and I think that was added partly because Jim felt it was important that we distinguish that having a relationship with local law enforcement doesn't mean we're going to get the kind of immediate response we could get from an SRO. I mean, I think we could just say, we could if we left it, we could take out, your response should take into account, we could just say removing an SRO could result in, just start there. But
Yes.
I was a little bit worried about that skewing, but I think it's a fair point that it's not really an equivalence because there is potential delay. I mean, an SRO, but I also was a little bit concerned about the fact that it sort of could skew the question. But I think it's a factual statement.
I think that if you just leave it as you're relying upon a close relationship, I don't think that gives people sufficient information. The implication of that left alone could very well be that, yeah, we have local law enforcement. Why do we need anything else? And we do, and we may not, but they're not in the building and they're not as fast and they're not going to be able to respond and they're not always there.
And there aren't that many of them.
Yeah, there aren't that many of them.
I think that's fair. I also, and we don't have room in the survey to deal with it. And I mean, this puts an armed officer there in the case of a violent attack. But as I said, there really is no reliable data that having an SRO in the school prevents a school shooter or an act of violence. Well, there isn't anything to back it up. There really isn't.
Well, you can't prove that. I mean, that's proving a negative. You don't have school shooters that go around and say, I didn't go to that school because they had an SRO. They're all dead at this stage of the game. So there's absolutely no way to make
there is some data that schools that have SROs that have had school shootings don't have significantly different outcomes than ones that don't. But there's not enough. They're starting to collect that data and but there hasn't been a focus on that.
I just think it's proving a negative, but I understand your point.
But I wonder if we should remove this question.
Just remove the whole question?
I
think that's an open-ended response someone might give and say, we don't need police officers there right next door, or we can use community police.
That's a good point, Lou.
Well, I think that's why the second sentence was put in there, to make sure people understood that it's not necessarily the same thing.
What were you thinking?
Yeah.
I'm fine. I think this is a question that we could leave in here. It is kind of difficult whether or not we should include the second sentence. I would argue not including it, because I think it does kind of skew it, and also just sort of puts out the idea, or because I think it might also be inferred when we're thinking about an unarmed security guard in the school versus a police officer. I think people will be able to come to the conclusion that response times would be slower. And I think it does sort of skew into one side. And like Tony said, there is data that says that it doesn't really help. And the only fair way to do this would be, if we were to include this, would be also including that statement. And I think both things are just kind of weak ground to stand on. So I don't think we should include this or the other one.
What if we just said E.O. Smith should rely upon a close relationship with law enforcement for school security rather than a school resource officer,
period,
or just, and maybe just located in the school. I know that's part of the definition, but I think
I like that.
Yeah, that clarifies it.
Yep.
At this point, I now agree with Lou. Take it out.
I agree.
So the original survey question says, I believe E.O. Smith should maintain a close relationship with local law enforcement instead of hiring its own school resource officers. Why make the change?
Right.
What's missing in that?
I think Jim felt that there was potential skewing because it suggested an equivalence between an SRO, and I'm not sure it does, but I can see that there's a point there, that it doesn't take into account the fact that the SRO is in the school and the law enforcement isn't.
Yeah,
so
they're not equivalent. I think most people are going to look at that question and they're going to say, yeah, of course, we don't need an SRO. And I'm not saying that we do, but they're going to look at that question and say, oh, yeah, we just maintain a relationship with the police. And that's,
Can we not
like
make
Tony
it,
just said, it's a false equivalent.
can we make it not a either or, but a degrees, I'm not sure I get the words right, but one being an extension of the other, not a replacement or an alternative, where, should we maintain our current close relationship with law enforcement officer? And then the question would be, do we extend that to include an SRO located within the school as an extension of the first, not as an alternative to it? Something like that.
And I think it just changed the question.
Yeah.
It may have, but I think we're not giving them a question as to whether or not we maintain a close relationship with law enforcement. Like, we're going to do that. They don't need a survey to do that. We will have that, right? The question is whether we're going to go beyond that.
I think that the intent is whether or not we're going to solely rely on local law enforcement rather than a resource officer within the building.
Yeah.
And word it that way.
I think that if we keep the question, we could delete the second sentence, and we should keep the located within the school. Whether or not we delete the question, I mean, I think it is a viable third option, and that people may say, that's good enough, but they may not. I mean, I think there will probably be people on both sides of that. I think not to, but I think that, I think that's why Jim added rely upon rather than maintain, because we already do. We're basically saying, so this question would say, should we just rely on what we have already with respect to SROs? I mean, we would probably still have security guards because we've had them even before we had SROs, but.
And do we take out, so if we're relying on local law enforcement for school security rather than the school resource officers, that's really the question. So do we take out, it doesn't really, I mean, we're going to have a close relationship. So do we take out close relationship and just say E.O. Smith should rely upon local law enforcement for school security rather than our school resource officers located within the school?
Yeah, that's what Lou said originally, I think, pretty much.
Well, the original question was, I believe. I took out I believe because we didn't have that for any of the other questions. So the question originally said E.O. Smith should maintain, I believe E.O. Smith should maintain a close relationship with law enforcement. What instead of, and I think it said hiring a school resource officer. I took out hiring because we don't really hire, it's the town, and I didn't really want to get into that.
I think what Sharon just said sounded great to me. And what Lou said originally, Lou, can you recap that for us, please?
So the question itself said, I believe E.O. Smith should maintain a close relationship with law enforcement instead of hiring his own resource officers.
Yeah.
That's the question as it appeared on the survey.
Yeah, that was the original question.
And it's not skewed.
Well,
I agree.
I think it is.
Frankly. Jim thinks it is skewed.
Well, I think Jim's giving the information. I do appreciate that, but there doesn't seem to be an equitable way not to skew this question.
I think what Sharon suggested is a better way to phrase the question.
Okay.
I agree.
So hers is that E.O. Smith should rely upon local law enforcement for school security rather than
a school
resource officer located within the school.
Well, bring into the school its own school resource officer.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to phrase it.
Yeah.
Instead, rather than bringing into the school a school resource officer.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So you would take out the located within the school because you already have that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we would take out the second sentence. let's see, what was that? Oh, that was in the 8th statement, which is on the survey. Says, well, we wouldn't have to say it. We would just say a school. I think we would just say, we wouldn't even have to have the first sentence of the A statement, which now says a school resource officer is an individual located in the school on a full-time basis, carries a, you know, the definition. And then the part that's relevant is, says, I would feel one, you know, the choice are safer if there was an SRO, less safe if there was an SRO, neither safer or less safe with an SRO. I think we could just delete the whole first sentence of the A statement entirely and just say, I would feel. I don't know if people feel about that, but the rest of it's just the definition. Any reaction to that? I mean, I think that, I mean, in a lot of ways, that question's sort of, it's asking a question that's been asked in a little different way, but I think that's important sometimes with surveys to do that.
Yeah, if you go back to our definition, Tony, as to what a school resource officer is, an individual located in the school. You don't need to put in certified police officer because you've already defined them. Carries a firearm, has arresting powers. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I would put, you know, I think you could just, I mean, we're gonna define SRO in the background.
Yeah, then you could say an SRO is previously defined. Isn't, you know, do you feel safer with the, yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I don't even know if we need that now at this point. I think we could just say, I would feel, and then the responses are safer at school if there was an SRO, less safe at school if there was an SRO, neither safer or less safe.
I agree.
I just think we delete the first sentence of the 8th question.
I agree with you. That makes more sense.
And then I didn't put this in my comments, but we have the next question, which is sort of a catch-all, and it says, in what ways should E.O. Smith make the school a safe place to learn and work? I mean, that's where anybody, I guess, can suggest any other alternatives they have, such as, you know, counselors or intervention, you know, some other sort of. And I would just point out that by having that as a catch-all statement, the data we will get will be, you know, while the other questions are targeted so you can get data that's tied to the question, this one will be a little harder to analyze because we'll probably get a lot of narrative answers and they'll just have to deal with that. I don't know what else really to do. I mean, the only alternative would be to put a whole lot of other things out there besides security guards, SROs, and relying on local law enforcement. I don't know how other people feel about that, but I sort of ended up saying, let's just leave it the way it is and see what else.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what people think, rather than think for them, see what they come up with. And I think it's going to revolve around a few basic themes when all is said and done. But I'd be very curious to see what other people are thinking is the way that we should go.
All right. So that's pretty much, and then I think the last question was anything else you wanted to add. Sharon, I know you were making a lot of these edits. I think the first one is defining the SRO. I don't know if we want to spend the time to do that now or
defining it in the background.
In the
background, yeah.
So I can't edit the PDF.
I know you can't. So I think maybe let me just state what I think we agreed to, and then I can draft. I mean, I don't know who. I couldn't edit on the PDF either. That's why I did all my corrections. I mean, if Lou, are you able to take these when we have them in final form and insert them into the survey? You're muted.
Yeah, I just have to make sure that I get a draft of exactly what they are. I think Sharon's doing it here, so I can do that tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the one that's left is the first comment, which I think right now, the first sentence in the background says, in the spring of 2018, the Region 19 Board of Education began investigating the implementation of a school resource officer program at E.O. Smith. then it goes on to 2 sentences, which sort of bring in all the points of defining an SRO. And I think I would replace that with for purposes of this agreement, an SRO is, and then combine the criteria, which are really from that we have in this document in paragraph 5 or question 5 into that definition, and then call that an SRO, and then we would just and maybe yeah, for purposes of this document, an SRO is defined as, and then I think, Sharon, if you went to statement 5,
Statement 5, sorry.
There it is. It's a certified uniform that's located in the schoolhouse. That's, and then you would take out the I support. That part would remain in the question 5, but that would be the only part that would remain. But the rest of it would be what you would plug in for the definition, and that would take the place of the second and third sentences in the first paragraph of the background. So that would replace the second and third sentences of the first paragraph with the following.
Replace the second and third?
Yeah. For purposes, this document SRO is defined as a certified. Yeah. Okay, so then the rest of that below that would come out. Okay, I'm just kind of go through these again. So the next one would be fine to make those changes. We would do nothing in the third and fourth statements. They would just stay the way they are, I think. Let's see. Yeah, they would stay the way they are. So they would be just nothing, no change. And then the fifth statement we would only keep the I support E.O. Smith having a school resource officer at E.O. Smith. And maybe we don't even need to say at E.O. Smith at the end. I support E.O. Smith having a school resource officer. The sixth statement we had added to that. Let's see. It's not required to undergo any statutory mandated or other specialized change. And then we would add, but will be required to undergo such specialized training as is required by the Board of Education.
Hey, Tony?
Yep.
I just converted this to a Word document that I think might be easier to edit as a Word document. I'll just send it to everybody.
Oh, great, great.
I don't know. Go ahead, Sharon, I'm sorry.
Do you want to take over the screen?
No.
Sharon, what I was going to ask you is if Jim circulate, I mean, will you be able to send this revision to all of us?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't track it to see how close it converted. There may be places, because there's never 100%, but it looks like it's coming out with the same basic format, and it looks like it's got the majority of the language. So I'll just save it and I'll send it to everybody on the committee. That may be easier than having to go through all that tedium of making edits and on a PDF form and try to get it out there. And let's just see how it works.
Let's see. But let's continue to go through this. So Sharon, if you can send this and Jim sends that, then perhaps I can just work with you. I can look at it and we can just make sure we reconcile it and we both come up with the same changes that we agreed to. I can work on that tomorrow morning.
Okay, sounds good.
And I'll just add in the next question, we removed I believe.
Yes.
And there's I believes, there's I statements in every other question.
There are.
So if we go through the questions, and I think this might be a good exercise real quick, I'll just.
Oh, you're right. There are a lot of I believe questions. Okay.
First is, I am an E.O. Smith. I believe. I am concerned. I am concerned. I support. I support.
Okay. I think we could then let's just add it back into the 7th statement at the beginning. I believe E.O. Smith. That's fine. That's consistent with what we're doing elsewhere.
Know that, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, and then in the last A statement, all we would do, we would make, the only change we would make, Sharon, is that we would take out the first sentence. So it would just read, I would feel, and then have the 3 responses.
Mm-hmm.
So we would just remove the first sentence from the 8th statement. That would be the change.
Yep.
So I don't know if you want to mark that here or not, just to.
Yeah, I have it. I wrote it down on my hard copy.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Now, I guess my question is, I've been doing a lot of talking. Jim's been talking. Has anybody, what do other people feel about these changes?
They're all appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, the intent was to try to avoid skewing towards any particular outcome and let the questions try to be, I mean, they're always going to be, but to try to be as objective as they could be.
So from a timeline, so I'm assuming we'll make these changes, make sure they're correct in the survey tomorrow.
Right.
So can we send this out to students, staff, parents tomorrow, and then close it on November 30th? So that would give a week.
Yeah, yeah.
That would give a week and a half, including 2 weekends. Is that okay for a timeline?
Yeah, I think that's.
It's plenty of time.
So you'll have to re-put it back into a PDF format once we give you the changes. That's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
And then
I just sent the Word version to everybody.
Okay. And then Lou, maybe you could address the issue of how we're going to, our opportunity to have this processed and analyzed for us.
Yeah, so I did contact some people again at the at NEAG in school policy and asked if they could send us a brief of the responses. So we would send them the data spreadsheet. The quantitative responses are easy enough, but grouping the qualitative responses. So what they said they would do is send a memo back within 2 weeks. So we would have it mid-December. And I was thinking having someone independent of us do it would probably be a good idea. Not even considering the fact that, we're kind of full right now. But I think it just gives the, having someone else process it. It's not an enormous survey, but having someone else do it outside of this institution I thought would be a good idea.
So you're thinking it's really the responses that people give in their comments that we need to kind of would be helpful to have that sort of put together and grouped together by someone who does this for.
I mean, they would do both. They would put descriptive statistics there, no significance tests or anything like that, but they would give us descriptives so it would be easier for us to process. I think it would be given to us in a form that we can also share if we choose to do that.
And it would enable us to have this work done by probably mid-December, which if we were doing it ourselves, who knows?
Who knows?
We're policy makers. We're not statisticians.
Yeah, and we can, if we have questions about it, we can certainly ask them. But I think the idea of having someone who does this sort of do the processing and evaluating of the qualitative answers and coming up with some sort of a spreadsheet and some sort of descriptive is probably helpful to us, will help us to be able to get through this in a timely fashion.
I'm sorry, so we're clear. I'm not asking for an implications section. Just process it and give it to us. We don't want you to give us what you think we should do. So that's not part of it.
I like the neutrality of it. Like if somebody comes back, well, we had this professional group to help us, give us the data.
Process the data, yeah.
Yeah.
Sharon, did the Word version come through? Did you get it?
Let me just see.
I am going to say I got a notification. Yes, it did.
Hopefully that will make it a little easier.
Yeah, we can, you can edit right in there. So I'll just cut and paste from the other document into this one and send that back out.
Okay, I will certainly be able to look at it. I'm available all day tomorrow. Everyone will have it. I think Sharon, when we get to the point, whoever else looks at it is ready to say it's done. We just notify everybody and give them a last chance to take a look, or if not, we're just going to go out with it.
So I will, I'll cut and paste the stuff in, and I'll send it to Tony, to you, and to Lou to take a look at first, and then you guys can put it out to everybody to see if it's ready to go. So that way we can get it done quickly.
Okay, so that we would then put it out to the rest of the committee, and with presumably we'll get this done. And Lou, what time do you need to have it as a go to be able to get it out tomorrow to the students' parents? And
tomorrow, I would say early afternoon, mid-afternoon.
Okay. Okay, unless we run into any sort of serious, glitches, I think we should be able to meet that.
Yeah, if we have to get it out Thursday morning, it's still, I think, a sufficient amount of time. You want to give people a couple weekends.
Yep. Again, I would just like to make sure that that we haven't neglected anybody who has additional comments. I mean, we've been kind of running through this, but or just comments on the process. And I think it is important to get this out. I think we need this input to be able to move forward on this question. All right.
Now, when you guys have reviewed it, Morgan and Lindsay are going to get a copy as well, right? They'll get copies. I don't know if they're on my email chain, so I just want to be sure that those guys get to see it as well.
Yeah, we can make sure that they get one. They get a copy.
Sharon, that might mean I'll send, if I have any, when I've looked at it, I may send it back to you to get it to Lou, because I don't have everybody, I'm not sure I have everybody's email. I'll get my comments back to you, and then, you can get it to Lou. Or I'll just give my sign off to you, and then you can send it to Lou. And then I think at that point, we would send it to the committee, and you can include Amog and Lindsay when we send it out.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you know what? As soon as we get off this call, I'm going to do it really quickly tonight so that I can get it to you and Lou tonight.
Okay.
And we can go from there.
Okay, great. Then I will look at it. I may look at it tonight, or certainly if not, I'll look at it. I get up really early, so I'll look at it first thing in the morning. I might and I will be back to you fairly early tomorrow morning.
Okay. Yeah. The formatting in the Word is not perfect, but when you put it into SurveyMonkey, or not SurveyMonkey, into the Google survey, it'll get formatted. So I'm less worried about that.
All right. I really thank everybody for moving these two things quickly. I also I sent in my email yesterday the final version of the statement of guiding principles, which included the changes that were made. So we have that. So on getting the letter and the statement out. I guess we now have those changes as well. We're going to go with Tim's letter with those few changes. And Sharon, can you put that also in final forms and send it out to everybody?
The letter, and at some point, I guess we'll need some guidance. And Lou, I don't know, I know you have a idea about rolling out all of it.
Yeah, so our choirs teacher we would like to introduce it through the arts as well. So we're not just emailing a letter. So we would like to do that together. I haven't seen the final version, but I know that they're working on it. I did send the statement of guiding principles. So I think what they're putting together is putting it to music. So I think we could send that to you in advance. So you could take a look at that and make sure the performance catches is representative of the documents. So it's something they've been working on, but I didn't want to just read it. We wanted to put some context.
So when would you envision that we would release the state? And I guess it's going to go to everybody that, again, parents, teachers, students, families, everybody that's on the E.O. Smith.
Yeah, so we're thinking before the December break.
Okay. Okay.
So hopefully you'll see a version before it goes out. Or you'll listen to a version before it goes out.
No, I mean, and then the actual text version and the letter go out at the same time?
Yeah, that's what we were thinking.
Okay. So by mid-December-ish. So people have it before the holidays. Okay.
Yeah.
Then, of course, and we don't need to talk about this tonight, but we actually have to then think about what we're going to do next. I mean, obviously we're going to have, about a month from now before we get the survey data. So, we are prioritizing the SRO issue, but we pretty much have done what we can do on it for now. Once we get this out and wait to get the results, I would urge people, if they haven't already. I know I think both Sharon and I, and maybe even Lou, have sent some articles about that relate to this. If people haven't read them, I think they're helpful. I know you may have to go if you want. It's sort of framing. I guess to some extent it'll depend upon the data we get, but I would emphasize again that ultimately this is not necessarily, if we get 20 answers that say this and 10 that say this, we're definitely, I think it's ultimately our decision, and we have to evaluate all the data and determine what's the best way to move forward.
I agree.
There's that. And then I don't want to take any more time tonight, because what I would ask people to start thinking about, and you can send them on to me if you have them, just what we think, if there's any other priority issues that we ought to deal with. Now, Sharon, I would like you, not tonight, but maybe at our next meeting, or maybe Lou, to kind of just update us on what's been happening with curriculum and personnel in terms of policies, or where we are. I'd just like to know where we stand on those issues and dealing with some of the issues that were raised. But I think we need to start thinking about doing the things that Tim indicated we're going to start working on in our letter. So I'm open to suggestions, and maybe when we have our next meeting, we can use that as sort of a brainstorming session for where we go next and how we want to do it.
One of our student advisory council reps has done some research that she can share as well. That gets into all of the areas that we've been talking about in regards to curriculum and minority recruiting, and just gives some background information. So she's really dug in. That's Jocelyn. So we'll be inviting Jocelyn to join. Now that this piece is completed, we'll be asking Jocelyn to join, if that's okay, to share her data and and her research with everyone.
That's great. And I think the other thing I would like to focus on is creating some mechanisms so that members of our EO Smith community can share with us their ideas, whether we have a dedicated email or some sort of a thing set up on the website where people can give us comments. I would like to be able to open that up so that we can start hearing from, once we get that, statement of principles out, and we might start hearing some things. I want to make sure there's a way people can do that easily and that we can communicate it's there and it's ready to take. So that's just, and with that, unless anybody has anything else, I'd like to.
One last thing before we go.
Sure.
At our next meeting, if we could have someone speak to the new courses that, this year it's not mandated, but next year it will be, for Black history and Latinx. I would just kind of like to see where we are with that. And maybe Jocelyn could speak to us about that as well. Thank you.
And I guess the other question is, do we want to set a date for our next meeting? Do we want,
Yeah, 12/25, Tony.
Yeah.
I got
I guess the real question is, I would like to have a meeting, regardless of whether we have the survey results back, sometime in December where we could address these kind of issues we just talked about. I also know we're getting close to the holidays, so.
And we have a retreat.
And the retreat is on the 12th? 12th. And our board meeting is it going to be on the 1st?
First.
Okay. I don't know how people feel about having a December meeting.
Hey, Tony, how about if we wait to see whether or not we are able to finish our teacher negotiations?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because Janice and I, in particular, have a whole lot of meetings that we're going to all the time. So I'd like to get the teachers' negotiations done before we do another meeting with another committee.
Sure. Maybe we can check in at the end of the board meeting to see how things look at that point and decide whether we want to try to do December or just wait. I think we probably may want to have, as part of the retreat, sort of an update on where we are on this too. So maybe that's
sure. That's good.
And I will come to that. I might slip out when they're voting on new members for our DTC, which I would like to do, but I'll definitely be there at 8:00 in the morning. And you guys opened my eyes that I can keep a handle on things remotely, but you're more important than the DTC. Oh my goodness.
we didn't hear that. Careful. We didn't hear that. All right. So we'll just check in then, at the board meeting or even at the retreat about what we want to do. And so unless anybody has anything else, I would take a motion to adjourn. And thank again everybody, and Amog and Lindsay, I really appreciate your being here.
Thank you guys.
Very helpful.
Absolutely.
It is really helpful to have you here.
I make a motion, and I just want to thank everybody. I'm impressed with you guys. I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
Sharon, before you go,
yeah.
I'll be there. Sharon, I'll be there tomorrow night in person.
Okay. Awesome.
You sent out an email today about people who are going to be there in person. I'll be in person.
Do you want dinner?
What are you offering?
I will order pizza. I will order sandwiches.
Whatever. If anything.
Janice, you come running in from work.
Yeah, so I'll come in person. Yeah.
I'm not part of that, right?